Robert, Robin Hulley, please could you tell me a bit about yourself?
Well, I am head of English translation at the WTO in Geneva. I've been in that position for 5 or 6 years. Before that, I was a freelance translator for many years and did various other things as well, and drifted around the world. Anything else you want to know about me?
I'd quite like to know how you got started in your career and what sort of training did you do to become what you are now?
Yes, well, I really stumbled across translation by mistake. I never wanted to be a translator. I was interested in languages. I have a degree in history and Russian studies from the United States, and I was offered an exchange, a year's exchange in the Soviet Union after that. And when I came back, I wanted to go back to the Soviet Union, and I discovered that one way to get there was to go to translation school. So I did that and ended up with a degree in translation. And then discovered that freelancing as a translator was a wonderful thing because you had both time and money, which is a rare thing in life. So I did that, and I only ever expected to do it for a few years, and then I expected to go on to something else. And I did go on to something else and discovered that I missed translation. So I got back into translation, freelance translating, mainly with the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, which has now become, it was the CSC, it's now become the OSCE. And then when I started having children, I discovered that it was easier to have some kind of stability, and so I eventually joined the WTO as a translator and then became head of the English section.
Thank you. What qualities and skills do you need in order to be a good translator?
Well, I think what is lacking in many young translators in the first year or so is, and sometimes much longer, is meticulousness and precision. I think many young translators concentrate a lot on speed and style and end up making mistakes that could be disastrous if they were not revised out of the translation. There are many examples which I won't start giving, but a small mistake can cause a diplomatic scandal, and so I think a translator has to be precise, meticulous, has to love his own native language and be interested in the other languages. And the other aspect is, when you're translating, you are where things are happening, but they are not necessarily happening to you. You're a spectator to what is going on in the world, and I think that is a very interesting aspect. But if you're the kind of person who has to be in the middle of what's happening, and if it has to be happening to you, and if you have to be the cause of what's happening, then translation is perhaps not the right profession.
What are the most interesting aspects of what you do?
Well, to me, it's that aspect, being a spectator to history in the making, to world events, and being able to sit back and watch them as an innocent bystander. I think it's also interesting simply to be translating one language into another which doesn't have equivalents, and trying to get as close as possible to the original and trying to understand everything that's behind the original, which includes some cultural aspects, and the challenge is extremely interesting. The challenge also of working under pressure for short times at conferences, having people breathing down your neck and saying, why isn't it there? All of that I find interesting, but I didn't always find it interesting. I had to discover it.
What would be your tips be for budding linguists then?
For budding linguists who want to be translators, learn how to sell themselves, be at the right place at the right time, be very precise and very careful, concentrate on accuracy in the beginning rather than on speed and style, but put as much speed and style as you can into it. I think those would be my tips, yeah.
You've already talked a little bit about your work, but can you tell us again to what extent you use your language skills on a daily basis?
I manage a very small section. We're 2.8 permanent translators. We have a certain number of freelance translators that are there at any given time, and then we outsource a certain amount of work, and I have to deal with all of that. But for a small section, it's not really very much, so I have time to do what I love doing, translating. I don't much like revising other people's work. I prefer to do my own. That's just a personal preference, so I prefer to delegate the revision to people who actually like doing it. But I would say I spend at least 50% of my time translating.
So how important are you and your team to the organisation you work for?
Well, I think we're extremely important in that there is an agreement that there are 3 official languages. We do a lot of legal work that has dispute settlement and so on, in which all of the documents have to be produced in the 3 languages, and they all have equal value. I'm not sure that, in view of these agreements, they could manage without us. So yes, I think we're important.
Do you have the opportunity to build on the skills you already have, such as learning new languages?
I certainly did have that opportunity during much of my career, and I think I took advantage of it. As I said, for many years I was freelance as a translator and as all kinds of other things too, which meant that I was earning money and I also had a lot of free time. I took advantage of that to go to different countries and learn their language, take intensive courses, and just spend time there in total immersion learning the language. So yes, I don't have the time anymore to do that kind of thing, but I did for many years.
Robin Alley, thank you very much.
Thank you.